tips for getting lilies open. We get more phone calls from panicked florists asking us that their wedding is tomorrow. They've just purchased their lilies. The wedding is in tomorrow, 2 or 3 days time, and how can they get their lilies open? Well, first of all, I would say you didn't read your class notes, because if you had read your class notes that we hand out here at the school, it would have said off season, you need to buy your lilies on a Monday for a Saturday wedding, and when your lilies are in season, because that way they're obviously going to open up a lot faster for you, you'll get away with purchasing them on maybe a Tuesday, Wednesday for a Saturday wedding. Remember, you can get deliveries of flowers every day of the week. Obviously Sunday is not from all suppliers, but definitely 6 days a week you can get your deliveries. So don't try and restrict yourself by getting all your flowers delivered on the one day. But back to how to get the lilies open. When you purchase lilies, there's 10 stems in a bunch. You pay by the length, you pay by the thickness of the stem, and you also pay by the number of heads. I find for weddings, you're better off buying less heads per stem. That way then all the energy will go into them heads and they'll open up much faster. Especially if you're using the lilies in flower arrangements. Personally, I think it's nicer to insert a lily into a church arrangement or a hotel arrangement and have 1 or 2 heads, 1 or 2 heads, 1 or 2 heads, rather than inserting a stem with 5 or 6 heads in one big blob and then leaving a large space and then inserting another large stem of lilies. But that's personal and it's completely up to you. So the next thing then is cut as much off the stem as you possibly can. When most people are buying lilies, they're buying longer stems because they're normally a better quality. But depending on what you want to use the lilies for, if you're just making like small posies, or if you're making tubby trees, you possibly don't need that length on the flower. So cut your lily as short as you possibly can, giving yourself a couple of centimetres to play around with. Then what you do, and when you're cutting your flowers, by the way, you cut on a slant. You open up a bigger hole than if you cut straight across. Have a bucket of, when you get your lilies first, a bucket of ice cold water and put some flower food in it. Remove the leaf below the water line and then give your flowers an hour's drink or so before you start messing around with them. So now you want to start getting your lilies open. So your lilies have had their first drink and they've had their flower food. So what I would recommend is now recutting the stem again, adding some warm water to the bucket of water just to keep the water slightly tepid. And if you have some open lilies, so I have some older lilies here. So this maybe is in the shop, maybe out in what we call our ICU, you might have some older lilies and maybe the pollen is still on them. So what you could do, now I would always recommend when treating lilies to remove the pollen as soon as you see them. But what we have here is an old stem still with the pollen on it. Remove the pollen just by gripping your finger and your thumb around it and it just slides off real easy. I shouldn't have taken off the stamen that time, I just gripped a little bit hard. So you can see this pollen is nice and dusty and it's full of goodness. If you drop that into the water that your fresh lilies are now drinking, whatever happens to be inside the pollen, the food, lilies love it and they're going to open up a lot faster. The other thing that you can do, just empty that there, hands are all tangerine. The other thing is if you keep your old stem of lilies mixed in with your new stem of lilies, the ethylene gas that these are releasing will absolutely help them, encourage them to open. The other thing is if you have some ripened bananas, like black bananas, spotty bananas, old bananas that you have, if you would keep your bunch of bananas quite close to your bucket of lilies, again the ethylene gas from the bananas, that can help your lilies to open. So best scenario is cut them every 4 hours. Every 4 hours when you cut a flower, it immediately starts to suck like mad. So the more you can cut off the stem, so that's why I was saying earlier on, cut them quite short but give yourself a couple of centimetres to play around with. So if every 4 hours you could come along then and cut another 1 or 2 centimetres off the end of the stem, immediately your flower will start to suck again, and then what can happen is you're getting more flower food up into the stem of lilies. And again in 4 hours time, cut them again, in 4 hours time, cut them again. Keep them in a warm room. Now never place your flowers in front of a heater or in front of a fire, that will cinch the top of them. But definitely have a heater on in the room. Place your flowers near a window, so even if it's not a sunny day, if there's any natural light out there and if there happens to be a little bit of sunshine, so place them near a window that they get natural light and that will help them to encourage. If you're near your local beauticians and they have sunbeds, why not bring the bucket of lilies down to the sunbed room? Obviously don't put them under the sunbed, but have the sunbed on or an infrared light all in the same room, and that'll help your lilies to open. If you go to our website, which is flowerschoolisland.com, and click on the blog button, I do have a list of other things that you can do to help your lilies to encourage them to open. Again, if you have any questions or any problems, feel free to email me here at the school at info@flowerschoolisland.com.